As I look at my watch, the time is 10:04 p.m. It's Wednesday, Christmas Eve. We're having a cookie party tomorrow, which we've had every year for people. It's kind of an open house at our house, a Christmas Eve cookie party. But the presents are all wrapped, all all 30 of them. I am the wrapper in the family, so I wrapped all 30 presents for the kids. And I almost never do anything for business after 5:30, let alone after 10 p.m. But tomorrow is going to be very busy being Christmas Eve, and then the day after is going to be Christmas, which is going to be busy. And this is my time to get the weekend podcast out to you. So good to have you here during this Christmas week for most of the people that are probably on my list, though not everyone. And even if you don't celebrate Christmas, most people do have some sort of holiday celebration. So happy holiday. I wanted to dig deep in history and look for someone who was way ahead of their time. And I went through a lot of people, and I went to this one person that I wanted to share with you because the idea really hits home, and others have taken it from him. Not taken it from him, but kind of taken the baton, like Charles Schwab. His focus was cheap fees, a very simple, straightforward idea. You had Jack Bogle, whose idea was just use an index fund. And in fact, he wrote his college senior thesis on this idea in 1951, and that kind of started his career. So he was ahead of his time, like this other person I'm going to share with you who is also ahead of his time. Hey everybody, this is RC Peck, and this is my weekend podcast, my holiday weekend podcast. And the theme for this weekend is simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And that is good old Leonardo, not Leonardo DiCaprio, Leonardo da Vinci. He lived 500 years ago. 500 years ago. I mean, it's a number that's so big, it's hard to imagine for my brain. I mean, this guy was around 500 years ago. There was no United States. 500 years ago, he was figuring things out. And the reason I'm using him is because, for one thing, really, the human brain has not changed at all in 500 years, maybe not even 5,000 years, but for sure not 500 years. And he really figured out a lot in life. And I love this one saying from him that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's so hard to boil things down to what matters most. And I want to share with you one price chart, just one. And I want to just share one price chart with you. And it's a really powerful price chart because it's about making one small shift. And this small shift is something you can do for free. It doesn't even cost you anything. And yet this one small shift can create such a huge change in your portfolio and your life and your choices and how big of a difference maker you can be to yourself and to your family and to your cause and to your community. And it's so simple. It's so powerful that people overlook it. And I think Leonardo kind of had this idea that simple is really hard to see. It's very difficult to see the simple because our brain wants to believe that many things in life are just so darn complicated and they have to be complicated. But in fact, they're actually really straightforward. And if you allow your brain to see the straightforwardness, then you can live a bigger life. So here's the one price chart I want to share with you. It's 2 lines. Now, in my educational material, I often show a blue line, and I often talk about how you get your life on the blue line. Now, this specific blue line is just showing you what the S&P 500 would have done over the last 17, or not would have, did do over the last 17 years if you would have just done one thing. And that is reinvest dividends, and that's it. The red line on the price chart is the S&P 500 without reinvested dividends. Now, I want to be clear with my education material that I teach. The way to get on the blue line with that other material has really nothing to do with dividends. I mean, yes, you probably want to reinvest dividends, but I use 3 simple tools for people to get on the blue line. And I wanted to show this for anyone who does not have access to my education. But I mean, think about this. All you need to do, instead of getting let's call it a 68% return over the last 17 years, and you get 125% return, right? So that is an incredible difference. That's north of a 70% better growth of your money. 70% growth. And you're not doing stop losses. You're not doing anything. Now, and I'm not necessarily a big proponent of doing nothing, because you certainly don't want to lose 50% of your money twice. But the point of me showing you this one price chart is the idea that simple solutions are incredibly difficult to see, and simple solutions do not sell well. And advisors, big box advisors, and conventional financial advisors, and your boutique advisor, almost all advisors, they don't pay their mortgage. They don't get their mortgage paid by showing you this simple answer, because complication sells. So really take this price chart to heart and just notice the difference between the blue line, which is the S&P 500 with dividends reinvested, being compared to the exact same investment without dividends being reinvested. It is incredible to my brain to see this, how such a small thing, a simple thing, you can shift to change your entire investment outcome. And with the market probability strategy, MPX2, we use very simple tools, but we just stack them together. Literally, we take 3 simple ingredients and we mix them together. The recipe is incredibly powerful. And this kind of gives you an insight of how you can have a simple ingredient, but when you mix it with a couple other simple ingredients, you get a pretty incredible recipe out of it. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is this. Be easy on yourself. Your mind, not someone else's, your mind believes complicated, complexity is better for your future, is better for your money. And that's what you must fight against. That's the war you must fight. Of course, big box advisors are not going to do best for you, even if you trust and like them. And the conventional independent advisor is not going to do best by you because they probably haven't done the research. They probably also believe that complexity works best. They probably already have their money in some sort of very complex, well-diversified, rebalance it, once or twice a year investment strategy. What you want to fight against, the war you want to fight against, is this belief that complication is better for your money. It's not. And the price chart I showed you, it shows you one simple move. And I didn't even go into the fact that the S&P probably beat 99% of all investors over the last 17 years. It's pretty close to that number. I didn't even go into that. I simply said, hey, even if you did have the S&P, if you just reinvested your dividends, you would have crushed it by another 70 plus percentage points. I mean, that's incredible. Percentage points. The simple is powerful. The simple is hard to see. And it's the simple that is going to get you to be a bigger difference maker in your life for yourself and for your family and for your cause. Thank you for being in my world. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm trying to think. This actually may be the last podcast for 2015. And I'm so thankful to have you in my world. I'm thankful to hear your feedbacks. Thank you for that. I'm super excited about 2016. I have a couple really big things coming out that I have not done before that are going to make it even easier for you to do the right things for your money, for your portfolio, for your future. And I look forward to getting those out to you in the first month, let's just say the first 30 to 60 days of 2016. Thank you so much for being in my world. And my job is to help you really protect your portfolio and protect your future and help it, secure a future that has more choices for you and your family. This is just another step in helping you protect your future and your portfolio. Until next time, this is RC Peck. Hey, everybody, I wanted to share just a quick true story with you that happened to me from a prospective client who came to me about 30 days ago. And he came to me through a client who's been in my world for about 13 years. And one of the things he said to me goes, RC, I get the value. I see how simple can work. I get how my approach through my advisor has really hurt, my investments through the commissions, the fees, the expenses, and the performance gap. He said, I just kind of have one thing left. He goes, look, I like the person who introduced me to you. I trust him. I see how that person has helped my life. But, how do I trust and like you? And what he meant by that is, like, I don't want to take the next couple years or 5 years to build up my trust and like for you. Like, how do I manage my trust and like, almost like, how do I accelerate the process? And I said to him, the reason why you believe you need to trust and like me, first of all, that's a story that you believe to be true, that trust and likableness is important to the growth of your money. But the reason, I said this to him, the reason you believe trust and like is important is because everything you've been taught up to this conversation is that growing your money is incredibly complicated and complex. So, of course, you have to believe that trust is important because you're trusting someone to manage this incredibly complicated approach. And I said to him, trust is not part of why people, come into my world. And he got what he meant. He got what I meant by that. I said, one of the things I do almost immediately is I show people exactly what I'm going to do. I show them why it works. I show them the data. I show them the information. And I say, this is the history. Here's 145 years. This is what it sits on top of. It sits on mass psychology of humans, looking at the psychology of hundreds of millions of humans working as kind of an entity. I give them the evidence. I give it away. I show them exactly why it works. And when you know why it works, when you know how it works, when you know when it works, when you understand those things, you don't need to have trust there. It's certainly not the same trust if someone says to you, look, it's really complicated. Of course you're going to have to trust it then. And he started to get that, and he actually started to laugh out loud. He goes, this is interesting. He goes, I trust my doctor because I don't know whether what he's saying is true or not true. I trust my car mechanic because I don't know. He goes, it's interesting, RC. I notice my trust has to be much higher when I don't know what they're doing. And the person I was talking to, he is in his late 50s, and he goes, I don't use trust in business because I know the questions to ask. I know what clarity I need to have to make my choices. Of course I want to trust the person, and I do, but it's not based on trust. It's based on me verifying the information. And I thought that was such a great thing to kind of end out the year, that because so many people look for the who should I trust? And if you're leading with that, idea, it's because you're probably in an area where it's complex or it's out of your area of expertise. And the great thing about investing is it's super straightforward, and that's one of the things I want you to get. One of the things you may want to think about is having that third-party conflict-free conversation. And if you do, the next step is super straightforward. It's just you click on the link in the PS of the email. There's a PS in the email. You can just click on that, and you can get that time with me for me to look at what is the one thing, that biggest performance gap in your strategy, your behavior, your approach that might be hurting you the most. Thanks so much for being in my world, guys. I really do appreciate that. And I so look forward to 2016 having you in my world. You take care and have a great rest of the year.